www.andrewmarkmusic.com. On a climate emergency? An atmospheric emergency. Do we need it? Should we do it? Paris Climate Agreement, and I didn't go into the details of studying what it is, but just from grokking what happened there, my understanding is that the Wall Street giant Goldman Sachs was put in charge of the atmosphere. In my opinion, Goldman Sachs is one of the most corrupt companies, institutions that's ever existed on the earth. And yet the nations of the earth saw fit to put them in charge of the climate. To my understanding, the Trump administration has more Goldman Sachs ex-employees or people who are, tied to Goldman Sachs than any other administration in U.S. history. So it's hard to kind of figure out what's going on here when Trump pulls out of the climate accord, when, the people he's surrounded with are so invested in it. It's very, very odd to me, quite strange. Now, I don't think the average person is ever going to be able to figure out what's going on here, Should we, as individuals, call our own climate emergency and take responsibility for the earth ourselves? My answer to that is yes. I think the big players have proven time and time again that they're Enron-like. They're just fudge numbers, and they seem to have this meme where it's complexity means that it just has to be this way. And yeah, I don't buy that. I think yes, it's complex, but it's not that complex that you couldn't do things coherently without all the contradictions. So I think it behooves anybody that cares about this issue to start policing themselves and go, what am I doing, right? One of the things that I think, right off the top, say you live in Toronto and you live in the borough of Etobicoke. Why not live and work there? And have your commute to 15 minutes. If you have to drive, commute for 15 minutes instead of the hour it takes you to get downtown driving. Now, of course, if you don't have to drive and you can find all kinds of ways to get to your 10-minute job, 15-minute job through a bicycle or walking or transit, then do that. I mean, if everybody started to do that, one thing I think would make a huge difference. So, what I'm suggesting here is most people are looking to these elites, these billionaires, the corporate oligarchy to solve this issue. And whatever it is they're doing, it seems totally upside down, totally inverted. Hey, Sheldon Wolin, inverted totalitarianism. Oops. It could be worse. They could be Satanists, but that goes to the nature of reality. It's certainly, if you look at their symbolism, it's hard to completely deny that there's something quite nefarious going on with these elites and this particular issue. But I think just the average person would and should care about how their behavior affects their local environment, you know. The number one thing I just mentioned is just localize your life, you know. Live and work as close to, you know, a center of gravity as you possibly can. There's many other things that you can do. Learn to garden, things like that. I think to have a material spiritualist view, and what I mean by that is to place a high recognition of empiricism and scientific knowledge, and juxtapose it with a deep concern for you know, ecology, you know, and economy that is in harmony with a deep concern for ecology, and to take personal responsibility for it as much as possible. So start making changes, and just refuse to do the hour-and-a-half commutes to a job that the oligarchy wants you to do. They want you to spend an hour to 2 hours a day commuting because it makes them wealthy. You know, it makes Shell rich to commute 2-3. I mean, think about that. You're spending close to, you know, 15 hours a week driving in a polluting vehicle. You know, now what would be extraordinarily beneficial is to have a systemic change that would give the majority of the people on this planet an alternative way to live. And I've covered that in the previous video called A New Earth, Global Commons, Civilization. So you can check those ideas out there. But, you know, short of that, I think people really do need to start taking personal responsibility for their life choices. And, you know, as far as who you're influenced by, I don't think that the sports and entertainment elite are good role models. I think you have to bypass them. You know, and even if we give them the benefit of the doubt that they think a Tesla is going to solve the issue, you know, that's fine. That's fine on that level. But most people on this planet are never going to be able to afford Teslas. And it's delusional to think that that's going to solve the problem here. So my own advice would be to bypass the sports and entertainment elite and start making the changes that you feel would work as far as downsizing your life and having, you know, a footprint that's sustainable for the planet. Well, yes, this video isn't about role models and the terrible role models we have within the oligarchy and the sports and entertainment elite, who we're not allowed to criticize, you know. Anyway, www.andrewmarkmusic on should we treat the atmosphere like a sewer? Is that a good idea? And if it's a bad idea, then maybe 7 billion of us have to start thinking about that and actually making some changes from the bottom up instead of from the corrupt top of the pyramid and doing things their way, which are as I pointed out in the beginning of this video, are extraordinarily contradictory. Anyway, www.andrewmarkmusic.com. Peace out. Peace the fuck out.